We wish you a gentler market than we've had for some years.
Yay!
Hey folks, I'm Michael Krasilovsky. This is Noel Moen, our buyer specialist on Team K Realty out of RE/MAX in Corvallis, Oregon. We wanted to do a market update for you. It is early December as we film this, right? And this is in follow-up to the really long headlines versus home sales video, and also kind of a better explanation than we did in that maybe driving around while talking about the market video. Speaking of which, we did finally film the narrated driving tour. That was well executed.
That was really good.
We did finally film the narrated driving tour of Albany, Oregon. We made that happen. It took a bunch of tries, and Cody is tirelessly editing that, so that'll be ready at some point in the near future. Definitely check that out. All right, but let's talk about the market, because it's a weird market, and the effect that the rising interest rates was expected to have did finally reach our area, which was not the case midway through the year, as you saw in that headlines versus home sales video. Let's talk about the market. It doesn't really adhere to standard definitions and terminology.
So, for example, what are we seeing right now in terms for sellers?
Right. So I on the team help a lot of our sellers sell their homes, as that word would imply, and it's really actually kind of a frustrating experience for a lot of sellers right now, because if you look at the simple stats, it should be a seller's market because there's low inventory, there's barely anything for sale, but our sellers don't feel like it's a seller's market because buyers are freaked out by the rising interest rates. So we are still actually seeing, or I should say, we are now finally seeing longer days on markets. We're seeing a lot of price adjustments. It's not the feeding frenzy that it's been for a long time. So based on the stats, it could look like a seller's market because there's very low inventory, but it doesn't feel that way at all. So it's a market that defies conventional terminology in that regard. So if it's not a seller's market, Noelle, as our buyer specialist, surely that must mean it's a buyer's market, right?
No. Basically, because of the low inventory still, there's not a lot of really advantageous buyer propositions right now. So people are still looking, and it's taking quite a while for some people to find the home that they really want. But what's really great is we're having a lot less of those circumstances where we're seeing a lot of offers being put on one home, lots of extreme escalation clauses. Like right now, we're seeing a lot more homes going at asking price. And if there are multiple offers, we're not going that high. So that's a really great advantageous point, because while the prices are still high, at least you're not having to compete and you have even higher prices.
Right. So that's a really important takeaway of what the market feels like there. There are still homes where we see buyer competition and multiple offers. I mean,
Yeah.
We put a deal together for some clients over on 25th Street very recently.
Yeah.
That got something like 5 offers. And that still happens, but that's not every day. And it used to be that was every day. And even that one...
And considering our market a few months ago,
Yeah.
we would have expected a lot more than 5 offers for a home like that.
Yeah, this is a house that was at a much more accessible price point. It would have probably gotten like 10 offers months ago. And it would have gotten bid up disproportionately, a lot higher than it did even now. So it's not a buyer's market either, but there are advantages, right? So as you said, there's a really good opportunity basically for our buyers because they're not having to compete with a ton of other buyers. So kind of like before, pardon the sarcasm, right? Or snark, no one was really happy before because our sellers were like, yay, we're making, boku bucks for our house, but they still have to buy somewhere too, the next week. And right now, no one's really happy either because the sellers are like, shouldn't I be making more than this? And the buyers are like, I don't want to pay these prices because I'm worried about the whole global economy crashing and interest rates aren't as favorable as they used to be. So, no one's really super happy about that, but quite frankly, it's an opportunity for buyers. So Noelle, for the advice for our buyers and for our viewers, right? How does a buyer know when they should buy a home? How do you advise them so that they can navigate the conditions we're in?
Basically, it's finding the right home at the right time when you need to move. So whatever that looks like, that's the best way to go about it. Instead of trying to time the market to get everything perfect, just get the right home at the right time that you can afford, and it makes sense for you to move right now.
Now, the fun thing about that is that that's the same advice you always give people, right? I mean, even 6 months ago in a insanely competitive market, that was the same, right?
Yeah.
That hasn't changed. So, as long as you can afford the house on day one, it works, it makes sense. The challenge there, of course, is that with rising interest rates on day one, house costs more. But
But as Joshua Kittle, one of our wonderful lenders, says, you marry the house, you date the interest rate.
yes,
And basically what that means is you buy the house now, and if interest rates drop, you refinance so that we have a lower payment. And if interest rates don't drop, you'll be so glad when you actually bought.
yeah. I mean, we all know that in general, most people don't hold their loan for 30 years and actually just pay it off at the end, right? When rates go down in a week, probably not that much next week, but in like a year or two, and there's a substantial difference there, you refinance because that's what everyone always does, and you lower that payment back to really where you'd like it to be because spending less would be great. But as you said, if those rates don't go down later, if this is the low point in the market, like let's think about that, then you'll be happy you got whatever rate you got as long as you were buying the right house at the right time anyway, which is always how real estate should work. I mean, these are the things you need to take into account. So, we don't expect a, drastic issue in the market or the economy from what we're seeing. Most of the professionals that we work with, don't either. And we've said for a long time that, a transitioning market is going to be a stressful thing. Transitions can be brutal, but this is actually for the better, right? I mean, no one was really happy with the insanely hyper-competitive market because those buyers still needed to move somewhere. So a more humane, gentler market would not be a bad thing, and that's what we're in right now. So it's going to keep being that way. These things are very predictable. The Fed said they were going to raise interest rates a half dozen times, whatever it was. They've already done that 4 or 5 times. Every time they do, people panic, and then they need to make that move anyway, as long as it's the right house at the right time for them. So we hope that this is helpful for you. I appreciate you being a part of this to get the information out to everybody. You've been doing an awesome job, by the way. Amazing work for our buyers. Noelle has only officially been working on the team since April, so that's only about 8 months or so, but she's actually been helping out behind the scenes with her clients for quite a bit longer than that. And it's been awesome having you aboard, so really appreciate the strategic partnership we have in that regard. All right, let's see. Anything else to add?
Oh, and a happy new year.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye.